Chapter 9. Halloween was a big worry. The holiday had always had two sides. Violence, egg throwing, and teenage vandalism offset the fun of the little kids. It shaped up to be the worst year ever. Ted Johnson decreed there would be no door-to-door activities, abandoning the night to the teens. Organized night watches on many streets discouraged attacks, but unorganized areas suffered. The police cruisers endured the vandalism. With a shortage of eggs, vandals chose excrement as ammunition. On November 1st, the police vehicles set covered in poop and paint. The night had provided a chance for angry residents to get revenge. Sharon turned the weekly cookie party into a Halloween event. Her pumpkin-flavored cookies, with faces in orange and white icing and chocolate chip eyes, were a hit, along with her jack-o'-lantern. Dressed in an old dress, straw hair, rouge-covered face, and a homemade hat, Sharon was a convincing witch. Laughter filled her kitchen and raised spirits. The young people spread the word, and the EAC drafted Sharon to organize Christmas celebrations, even though she had never attended church. Except for the chief and the corporal, the town cops packed up their families and headed south, lured by stories of paid security work in the city. Most of the ex-teachers and upper-level municipal staff, outsiders who had no family ties to the town, joined the flight to better prospects. Some immigrants made a show of proclaiming no one appreciated them, and they would go where someone would pay their worth. Those remaining in town shrugged this off. Everyone had more to worry about than hurt feelings. Waben kept the mayor, Evie in the office, a lone man in the works yard, and one of the sewage plant operators. These four stayed to ensure essential town services functioned. They lived in town and benefited directly from their work and hoped for pay. Bill had one less worry. The officer who harassed him after the gas theft fled south. The next trouble came in the second week of November. Jeff returned home at lunchtime sporting a bruise near his eye and rips in his jacket. "What happened to you, baby?" Sharon asked. "I ran into a gang of kids hanging about downtown, bad-mouthing people, and making trouble." Jeff dabbed a cold rag on his eye. "They picked on Mr. S. Williams, you know, the older lady who lives over by the church, swearing and pushing her around. They wanted money and blamed her for their problems. Someone said it was older folks who stole all the money so the kids couldn't have any." Jeff grimaced in pain. "They knocked her down, and she begged them not to hurt her. I helped her up and told her to get going. She went into a store and then the gang turned on me, about 20 of them. Only 2 were doing the physical stuff, and they came at me. I got in a few good punches, but they knocked me down, kicked me and called me a mama's boy." "Where were the police?" "Are you kidding, Mom? They've been hiding in the cop shop ever since Halloween, and now there are just 2 of them. They were always useless anyway. I think Mr. S. Williams went there after the goons left." Sharon hurried downtown in search of Mr. S. Williams. The woman had disappeared along with her attackers. After fruitless inquiries at the few open stores, she headed home. "Gimme it, I'm older." The little girl's voice interrupted Sharon's thoughts. "I want to take it to Mommy. I found it." A younger boy whined. "I want to." A little girl about 5 and a boy, perhaps a year younger, scuffled on the walkway of a side street. They wore dirt-stained, high-quality snowsuits. Their hoods hung down, revealing scraggly long, blonde hair. They looked at her with brilliant, blue eyes. "Hi there," Sharon tried to sound friendly. She had seen these 2 running about, but did not know them by name. "Can I help? Missy wants to take my quarter," the little boy pleaded. "I found it all by myself. I'm bigger. I should carry it." The little girl pushed forward. "Is the quarter yours?" Sharon knelt to make eye contact. "I found it all by myself. My name is Kyle." The little boy showed a mixture of pride and defiance. He stepped back a pace, perhaps fearing that Sharon intended to take his coin. His right hand slipped into his snowsuit pocket. "This seems a lot of fuss for a quarter." Sharon was trying to draw the little ones into a conversation. "We don't got much money." "We need money," Mom says. "She will be happy to see it," the girl said, tugging at her brother's sleeve as he twisted away. "I don't think it should matter who carries it home." Sharon smiled and tried to appear like a friend. "Missy thinks Mommy will give her something if she brings it." The little guy stepped toward Sharon as if sensing an ally she would too. "But I found it," he repeated. "She should give me something." "I found it. Missy always gets the good stuff. Why don't you carry it together?" Sharon wondered if they had encouraged this rivalry at home, or it was ordinary sibling competition. She remembered her kids' tiffs. "Mommy would give you both something then." The two little ones looked at each other, trying to decide how much they trusted the other. The solution had not occurred to them. "How can we do it?" The girl decided she liked the idea. "Trust each other and want to share?" Sharon hoped she was not lecturing. "Do you have a bag you can put it in and each hang onto it?" "Nope," they responded in unison, looking desperate as if the new solution had disappeared. "Remember I said you have to trust each other and want to share?" The two silently nodded. "Missy, hold out your hand." Sharon took the girl's wrist and turned her hand palm upward. "Kyle, bring your hand and hold Missy's hand with a quarter in both your hands like this." Sharon drew his hand from the protective pocket and placed it into his sister's hand so that the quarter was flat between their palms. "Both of you hold on tight and take it straight home to Mommy." Sharon stood and smiled. Missy reached out and using her free hand brushed some sidewalk dust from Sharon's brown slacks. They smiled and turned down the street. Sharon watched them hurrying along, holding hands. "Mommy," she heard them both call out as they turned up a walkway to a nearby house. Sharon walked home, smiling, thinking about cooperation and of how the lowly quarter had become so valuable. Later in the day of Jeff's attack, Sharon watched an unruly gang of young people swarm past Shadley's house towards the high school. Many were texting or talking on cells. In a violent afternoon, they trashed everything vulnerable around the school and park. They cracked some school windows, but the mob had not gotten inside. That evening, they set fire to a portable classroom. The building burned to the ground. There was no functioning fire department to deal with it. Several dozen adults converged on the scene and discovered the young people gathered near the fire, cheering and chanting anti-school and anti-adult vulgarities. The bright orange light from the flames reflected from youthful faces creating a macabre effect. Disembodied faces danced in the surrounding darkness. Lit screens of cells moved in the darkness giving the impression the youngsters carried blazing torches in some religious ritual. "Get lost, losers," the youngsters taunted the group of grown-ups. "We'll burn you too." "What started all this?" a man asked Bill Shadley. "These punks have been running around hassling older people for a couple of days now," another bystander said. "I had to run for it earlier today. They said I stole their future. They beat up my kid today," Bill added, when he tried to help an old woman they were assaulting. "Oh. It was your boy," one man came over. "Thank him for me. That was my mother they were after." The man shook Bill's hand vigorously. "I hope he's okay. He has bruises, but he's fine." "Do you think these kids started this fire?" "I sure do," the other replied. "I think we should stay and scare them off." It proved to be a good plan. Once the blaze subsided, the young mob headed off chanting loudly and looking for other targets. They still taunted the adults but made no trouble. Bill noticed the butt of a shotgun sticking out from under one man's coat. Perhaps the kids had seen it too. "I think we should follow them and make sure no one gets hurt." The man with the shotgun did not smile. The adults trailed the noisy youngsters as they smashed their way towards downtown. They found a bizarre scene on Main Street. Wabun had installed decorative lampposts and fixtures to make the town appear to be nostalgic and attractive to visitors. The brightness of the modern lamps and antique gas-light globes cast a garish, yellow light over a scene of mayhem. Fires sputtered in street trash bins. Someone tried to ignite the wooden cribbing of a planter box. Smoke drifted on the still November air. Bill thought it looked like a movie set. The mob had stopped in front of the variety store. Burn the Pacus! Someone shouted. The mob chanted the call. Rocks hurled against the storefront, this time successfully smashing the plate glass and sending shards into the street. A primal roar rose from the mob as vandals surged into the darkened interior. Lights came on. From a safe distance across the street, Bill could make out hooded figures ransacking the store. Almost no stock remained. The looters carried out armfuls of adult magazines and old newspapers. Most of these went to feed the growing fire on the planter box. "Here's that stupid sign," one boy waved a single piece of paper above his head, yelling as if he had just bagged a trophy. He laughed, dancing wildly about the burning planter. The paper was the handwritten sign, "In store only 3 students at time," taped to the store's door. "I guess we win that one," the boy shouted. With a flourish, he tossed the paper onto the burning pile. A roar rose from the nearest youngsters. It was a mystery to Bill that the mob had not torched the store. Maybe the youngsters realized it would have destroyed half of the downtown. Someone spotted the cops standing at the door of the town hall. Perhaps that diversion saved the buildings. A shout rose. The rioters surged towards the despised police. "Pigs! Pigs! Pigs!" The cry came from the youngsters. "Kill the pigs!" An adult voice called for murder. Several rioters held their cell phones high, videoing the scene. Bill was sure he would find these on Quiver or one of the other internet chatter sites. Chanting degenerated into a confused mixture of threats and obscenities. They smashed into a nearby used furniture store, and piles of old furniture, clothing, and anything combustible appeared in the street. At first, Bill thought the mob wanted a barricade between themselves and the police, but flames erupted from the pile, and a roar rose from the crowd. Acrid smoke mingled with smoke from the smaller fires. Lamplight streamed through the haze in yellow shafts. Bill retreated from the smoke as it washed against the town hall and flowed around the building into the darkness. The bonfire created its own weather. Convection sucked the smoke high into the darkened sky. The success of the fire gave the mob courage. It chanted louder. Threats against the police and the mayor echoed through the night. Frenzy built until the throng pushed forward, surging towards the police. The fire forced the mob to split into 2 streams around the blaze. As the leading edge of each arm turned towards them, the constables threw 2 tear gas canisters, one landing in front of each half of the crowd. The mob stopped short, the rear echelons surged over top of those in front. Many of the original leaders fell to the ground. Bill could hear screams of fear and pain cutting through the mayhem. Confusion momentarily stopped the charge. Then someone grabbed one of the spouting canisters and tried to heave it through a window of the hall. The second followed, although both missed their mark, bouncing harmlessly off the brick facade with the throwers nursing burned hands to remind them of their folly but encouraging the kids. With new bravery, shouting wildly, the mob started a second charge. To the policemen's credit, they did not seem to shoot to kill. It appeared to Bill, the first volley from their handguns went low intending to hit legs. Bullets found targets and several people collapsed in loud agony. The officers leveled their weapons directly at the front of the crowd. The mob stopped and fell silent, suddenly comprehending this was real and the bullets had hit. Cries and whimpers from wounded teenagers sounded loudly in the street. The rest came to their senses. Within minutes, the crowd disappeared, leaving 3 injured young people, a small cohort of watching adults, and the police. The cops hurried to check out their victims. Bill and several others came to assist. Someone ran to find the nurse practitioner. The volley caused one shattered leg, a broken foot, and a girl's calf muscle shredded by a bullet. In normal circumstances, these would be reparable wounds. In this world, turned upside down only a few weeks before, no one thought these youngsters would fully recover. Tammy rode with Ted Johnson in his dealership van, rushing the wounded to Orangeville, hoping the doctors there could help. When the vehicle departed, the police retreated into the building. The fires had burnt down to glowing embers, sending the odd bursts of sparks skywards. Bill and the others returned home. In the middle of the night, someone smashed the windows of 2 police vehicles parked beside the station. The next day, Bill, as representative of the EAC, went to the mayor's office with Al Wright to see if they could improve security. Although Ted Johnson was sympathetic, he refused to let the 2 remaining constables make patrols. He wanted them to defend the town hall. "What do we do now?" Bill asked Al, as they made their way out of the building. "Some folks organized neighborhood watch groups during Halloween. We could do the same thing to discourage some of the vandalism and harassment. It would have to be round the clock." They reworked the casual security squads from Halloween into patrols. A few confrontations occurred, but no violence. The shooting at the town hall had taken the fight out of the discontented. Many people were angry with the police shooting. Bill tried to describe the scene truthfully, hoping to discourage rumors. He reminded many he had no love for the cops, but he could not fault them for defending themselves. The onset of winter weather finally cleared the streets. The discontented youth gathered in abandoned houses, searching for liquor and sharing their misfortune. Snow and the threat of winter trapping them in town stirred many families to leave. Fewer kids remained to cause trouble. By the end of November, about 1/3 of the town had left. "I'll be out of town for a while." Will Kirk sat opposite Ted at the mayor's big redwood desk. "I didn't want you to think I just took off like these other quitters." Kirk nodded his head disdainfully towards the window. Several heavily loaded vehicles had been heading past each day on their way to the cities. "Where are you going, Will?" Johnson was in a gloomy mood. He barely glanced at his visitor. "The wife's family is down in London. We're going there. I hope to find something to last until we can get our plan going here." Kirk rubbed his eyes. Dark bags and lines suggested sleepless nights. He looked hungry. "It seems this thing is playing out longer than we thought." The mayor tried to smile and slid a sheet of paper towards the real estate broker. "It's getting worse." "What's this?" Will read the paper and frowned. "They will indefinitely shut the auto plants." Ted turned to look out the dirt-streaked window. Remnants of feces hurled on Halloween night smeared down one side. "Yeah, well, I can't get any capital right now either." Kirk dismissively slid the paper across the desk. "It looks like our plan is dead. It was a gigantic waste of effort." "Seems so," Ted responded listlessly. "Matt and Walt have joined up with Dunn. He won't ever work for me again." Kirk flared. His anger aroused no response. Ted had decided the old way had gone. Who knew what the future might bring? Minor disputes and pettiness no longer mattered. Reverend Wright has joined with them. They seem to be honest, but naive. Ted's tone showed it was no great matter. He regretted throwing in with Kirk in such a poorly thought-out scheme. "Maybe I should join this EAC myself." The mayor kept his thoughts to himself. He had been mayor and business owner too long to be a follower. The EAC already had leaders. "When I get back with some cash, I'll make a killing," Will was still faithful to the dream. "Don't worry, you will get your share." Kirk misinterpreted Ted's grimace as meaning the mayor only worried about his profit. Johnson thought his friend was delusional. Deep depression gripped the mayor. "The mill is still running once or twice a week." Ted tried to be cheerful. "Keep in touch. I'll let the others know your news." "Only Frank seems to be interested." Will stood preparing to leave. "Roger has those big jobs he bragged about and doesn't care anymore." "I'm sure he'll be in tight with us if the money's there," Johnson was sarcastic. "Goodbye, Ted. I hope we meet again soon." Ted Johnson sat back and closed his eyes as Kirk disappeared through the doorway.